Welcome, BlackTribers. Mandate 456, M456. God is turning the hearts of the fathers to the children and the children's hearts back to the fathers. Hey, I'm sitting here with my beautiful bride, Lisa Marie. Nice. Hey, we're in 719 Linding. Shout out to them, their studio. They're letting us use this thing. We're going to start interviewing couples.
Yes,
so if you're a couple and you want to talk about marriage, we don't care what condition it's in, where you're at, you want to tell your story. We're going to do quick 30-minute podcasts with couples in the future. We're really excited about that, actually. And if you're watching us on video and you can see my beautiful wife, it's on patreon.com/Gary and Lisa Black, or you're listening and we put that out later. Our Patreon people get first access in a few days or a couple weeks before, and then we send it out on Apple, on Spotify, on SoundCloud. It goes all over the place.
Have you ever heard a man describe his wife as beautiful, and then you Google her and you're like, oh,
yeah,
he
honey,
loves
you're
her.
extremely photogenic. You look pretty hot on photos, which is true. Okay, we're back. So last podcast we talked about
compartmentalizing in a healthy way.
In a very healthy way. It's a tool. We put out a challenge to you ladies to learn how to compartmentalize. Lay down your sword for the moment. Don't fight in front of the children. Don't fight in front of whatever's happening in your world.
But we're not going to deny what's happening.
That it's actually really healthy if you wait a couple of days to deal with something very emotional.
Yes.
Because we're ruled by our emotions, and we're supposed to actually rule our emotions. The best teaching I ever heard on that, by the way, is the Karis guy. Who's that?
Yeah, Andrew Womack.
Andrew Womack does a teaching on ruling your
harnessing
emotions.
your emotions.
Harnessing your emotions.
It is classic, and
it's a book.
It needs to get back out there in the world, because people they think it's okay. This is my truth, and you made me feel this way. Yes, is just feeding the narcissism.
If you can't harness or rule your emotions, get that book, and then we learn how to become fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, long suffering. We're in our marriages in long suffering.
Yeah.
Right? So we stay in anyway, and we get tools. So hopefully some of you ladies have responded. You're learning how to compartmentalize. You're learning how that you can wait. Men, you're being faithful, and you're saying, if it's Tuesday, we're going to come back together on Friday when the kids are in bed. You're actually doing it. You're not bailing.
Yeah.
Right? Show up, grow some balls, right, and do it. So now we're going to talk about what?
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question on that.
Okay.
To wrap up from last time. What do you think about, if you do agree, like we're going to have this conversation, what do you think about putting a time limit on it? Because this is always interesting to me, is you will say to me, oh my God, we've been talking about this for hours. And I'll be like, dude, it's literally been 4 minutes. I can show you from this minute we sat down where it's been
could have your little clock that you didn't like on
4
our last podcast.
minutes. You're like, for 80 years, we've been beating this over. I'm like, we've been looking at each other for 4 minutes. So what do you think about?
I'm gonna ruin my emotions here.
You're not gonna get upset about. But it felt like that to you. I get that.
Yeah,
but
it does feel like that.
But you do not like feeling uncomfortable with someone you really care about. Like you can like really blow off the general public that you don't. Maybe we're all like this, but when you really care about something, it gets to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's a negative exchange, it tears you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know that about you.
I'm a sensitive guy.
You actually are way more sensitive than I am.
Yes.
I think people would be shocked to hear that.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I am not sensitive for myself at all. I'm very sensitive for people I care about.
Yes. You care about is the key in there.
Yes. If I don't care about you, you're dead to me.
Wow.
No.
Okay. All right. So what was the question?
The question was, we were talking about compartmentalizing in a healthy way, which is not natural to females.
It's a hard word to say, compartmentalizing.
It's a good word. Is it okay to put a time limit on that? Because I think there's been times I've been in conversations with women where I'm like, land the freaking plane, Joe. Like, it's like, I remember this one time I had lunch with this woman. We're not friends anymore. But there was something that happened with one of her kids that was very significant and I really cared about. And it was something we'd gone through with our kids. But she had to tell me about when she stopped at Walmart, where she parked, what she bought, all to get to this weekend when this thing happened. It was unnecessary information.
Yeah.
And it just didn't, it just sucked the life out of me. Do men feel that way with females? Like, can you just say, you did this on Tuesday, it hurt me, I'm wondering how we can rebuild trust in this area?
That would be fantastic. Yes, that's not going to happen, but that would be beautiful. Yes, absolutely. Now, I'll say from a man's side, like, we don't like to deal with our weakness.
Yeah.
Because when we're weak, all we want in life is to be respected. And when our wives are damaged and they're hurt by something stupid we did, we get angry first because that's just what we've always known. And we hate it. We don't want to fail, but we failed again.
Okay.
And again and again. And so, yeah, I mean,
I'm not a fan of failure.
Yeah, it's
I
not
don't love
fun.
it. No.
It sucks. And again, all men ever want is respect. Women want to be loved. And when we're not respected, we weren't respected from our fathers. We're not respected from our coaches. We're not respected from our teachers.
You're definitely not respected on the earth right now.
No. That's why I love like what's happening in Boulder right now with Dion. He actually respects his men as players. He doesn't coach them as much as he fathers them.
He respects his mama.
Yeah.
He respects his leadership.
He's teaching a generation how to actually honor and respect.
I know, I
love
it.
It's a gorgeous thing. But yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just was thinking like we could take it to the next level and you could build more security around it. Now, obviously, if you are, like there's been a major trauma in the marriage where you're not even sure if you're going to make it, you might want to go get a cabin in the woods and really hash this bitch out because it's just not going to be a quick conversation. Right. And it doesn't mean that at the end of the conversation when I do think that's the second part of the challenge is, can we close that door? Because if you just need to say over and over again how hurt you are, that's not a tool. That's not giving your spouse anything to move forward on, except for that you're wounded and you're going to be wounded for a long time and you don't know, but they just have to put up with it. Yes. I think that's what kind of wears people out.
Well, and what women will do is 3 years later, they'll bring that up again.
Because it's all connected.
And we feel like it's been dealt with.
Yeah.
And now you just make us feel like an extra failure.
Right.
Because it never was dealt with. Right. And we don't even consciously, most of the time, think that. Subconsciously, we're like, oh, shit, I failed again.
Yeah.
God, well, I'm not even going to come home anymore.
Wow.
Right? I'm going to go to porn instead of to my wife.
Because that lady will love you.
Well, yeah, right, exactly.
That lady thinks you're amazing because she's not real.
It doesn't call you names.
Because she's been trafficked and she's in a small room being held against her will. That lady will love you.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
We don't have that problem in our marriage, so that was not a dig. That was just me entertaining my imagination. Okay, so I want to talk about a couple different places of intimacy. And I want you to help me come up with really good tools.
I'm nervous. Help me out.
You should be nervous. We're going to start with financial.
Help me. Okay.
So intimacy, first thing we think of is probably sexual.
Absolutely. I'm looking at you right now. You look very hot.
Thank you, baby.
Wow.
And financial intimacy, though, is something that comes up every day in your life. If you're not connected financially, that's one of the number one causes of divorce is different ideas about money, because money is so emotional.
Yes.
Like you and I were raised so differently with money.
Right.
And we were told, I remember being very small and my dad saying, you never talk about sex. Oops, sorry, Dad. You never talk about politics. Agree with you there. And you never talk about your money. And he was in a extended family, where there was a lot of jealousy over how much money he made, because my dad's been very successful in his life. So he's like, that just makes people, if you're successful, they won't like you. And if you're not successful, they won't respect you, was kind of the message I got. So he's like, so anytime you would talk publicly about money, I felt like I had just taken my clothes off.
Wow.
I never wanted anyone to know how much was in my bank account, if I owned my house, how much I paid for my truck. I was just like, it made me feel so exposed, and you didn't feel that way at all. To you, it was just like talking about the weather.
Right.
Okay, so how important is that conversation in, like, it is the ebb and flow of so much of your home, like where you're going to live, how you're going to live, what you're going to drive, who's going to make the money, who's going to help make the, like, who's going to spend the money. Where do we go with this?
Well, I think for us, let's just stay there.
Okay.
Right? We both had to work at different seasons, but I've always worked. right?
Right.
You've had to go to work to help at times. We've lived as missionaries.
Let's be honest.
For 30 years on and
didn't
off.
help at all. All it did was bring chaos.
Yeah.
But I just had to get out of the freaking house.
Right.
It was selfish, honestly.
Well, and you needed to do that
it
for a
was
season.
very selfish.
And so, but then we also have agreed always on amount. What amount will we have to come together on that we won't spend
Yeah.
within our budget?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm not just going to go put $1,000 on a credit card without
Right.
talking to you.
Right. You're not supposed to.
Shoot, I was going to go shopping later.
Yeah. It's if we're not going to spend more than $300 or $500 or depending on your financial
Yeah.
$10,000, but we're going to talk before we do that. Right. And here is the budget for our month. And so let's have life come from that,
Right.
not death, because
Right.
we both just messed it up. Right.
Yeah.
So it's always life and death, not right and wrong.
Right.
And what most couples get involved in is the right and wrong of finances instead of the life or the death of finances.
Well, here's what I think happened to you and I.
Okay.
Is I think that you lived in extremes, and I was no fun. Like money, like I was raised that like I never had anything but water in a restaurant until I met you, because I was raised like that's not how we spend our money.
Right.
Like that's not. But you're very much more like, no, we're really going to enjoy this meal. Like
Yeah,
if we're
it's
going to have
Tuesday,
this steak,
we're going to have red wine with
like
this
we're
meal.
going to
Yeah.
have really good wine with this meal, and not that we couldn't afford it, didn't pay cash for. By the way, we pay cash for everything. We don't have any
Right.
credit, but I think one of the smartest things couples could do, because this you can go round and round and round, is make someone else the bad guy. Get a program that is not prosperity minded.
Right.
Because there's
On one end.
There's one that's out there right now, because I was looking at them for us, because I do think we need to have some conversations about this, because I need more boots. But
She said boots.
And you think that 3 pairs of boots are enough, and I don't understand why you don't understand that you need more than just certain colors. Anyway,
Jesus.
I need cowboy boots bad. But I think that making something else, we are not taught about money. We are not. Our school system is not set up for real life. It is set up for things that just don't matter. You know, like we take really important things out of history, and we don't teach people
teach
about
the wrong
money.
history.
Well, I mean, who knows what the right history was unless they
Right.
lived it? But we just block out things we don't want to deal with, and we make a bigger deal out of things that really don't matter. And I think to actually have a program and go through it as a couple and come into agreement with the money,
Yes.
because you and I agree on giving.
Yep.
Give extravagantly. But I
Absolutely.
still love
We
it when I
sow,
get a
we
phone
tithe,
call from
yeah.
you that's like, hey, this guy's really hurting. He can't pay his rent. I'm like, absolutely. It's blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He's one of our kids. You know, let's do that. I like being brought into it, because that's part of the blessing for me too.
Right.
Is that if you feel like we're supposed to help somebody out, and it's just between you and I, but I want to be brought into it. Money is an emotional thing. It has its own entity, and there's to what I see, and I would love to find someone that's kind of in between on this teaching, is you have the prosperity thing where you need 4 Escalades.
Yeah.
So you can decide which color you're in the mood for. I think is absurd and disgusting, because you can't drive 4
It's
Escalades.
witchcraft,
It
yeah.
is.
No
And
question.
that, you know, everybody's got to have a private jet, and God wants
Right.
you to have that. And then there's the poverty thing, which destroys the souls of humanity.
Which most of the people we've been with in ministry have a impoverished mindset.
Impoverished. Can you explain what an impoverished mindset is?
Yeah, it's just everything. There's never going to be enough. So we're going to scrape this off of the shell so that we can make a soup, it's just this impoverished
And
mindset.
everything's broken down, and nothing
Yeah.
works, and nothing's excellent.
ever going to be excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the tool that I would suggest for this is actually to take it, because there is no way a man and a woman is going to come together and have been raised with the same flavor of money.
Right.
And just you and I, we're both white. We're raised middle class. Our parents stayed married. We have all that in common. We were raised in the church. We have all that in common. But our teaching on money is completely different.
Yes.
The culture of your family and the culture of mine.
Absolutely.
I think when we got married, you thought mine was bad and I thought yours was bad.
Right.
You know, and I still don't think we think either one is good. But I think that to take a third party that's actually really studied this and go through it together, instead of constantly interjecting, this is what I think about money and this is how I feel about money.
Right.
And to me, money is security.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think that's incredible. That's an intimacy of finance in your marriage. Now, I was raised in extremes. Like we were extremely impoverished.
Extreme.
Yeah. Like we lived in a trailer park with another family of 5 in a 3-bedroom trailer that was poverty. And I always had to wear my brother, who ended up being 8 inches shorter than me, his boots, his jeans. I never got anything new. And then at 13, we were extremely rich, multimillionaires.
Like ridiculously like private planes rich.
Private planes, motorhomes, boats, horses again, the whole thing. And then at 19, my parents went completely broke again and never got money back. So it was the up and the down of that. But my dad was so full of fear with money that he would literally every month scream at my mother while he was balancing the checkbook. For your younger generation, we had checkbooks. And we would balance them every month of what we were spending and what we weren't, and down to the penny. He would lose his mind if my mom spent money too much on groceries or something. Now, he was a multimillionaire at this time. So all I saw.
So is that a impoverished spirit?
Yeah, had a impoverished mindset.
So you can have a impoverished mindset even if you're a multimillionaire.
100%.
Okay, good to know.
Yes. And so that, to me, I was like, wait a minute. There's some freedom here. Now, again, we've lived on support, and so some of our guys are, you can't show pictures of you having fun, right? I'm like, somebody gave us tickets to the Denver Broncos, and I'm going to take a picture of that because that's okay and not make an excuse.
Also, no one posts pictures of themselves like going through their bills every month.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's just not going to happen.
Like when we go through our receipts, we don't take pictures of them. We're like, we're going through our receipts.
Right.
Woohoo!
Exactly. So, and you know, I can enjoy life at a low level because I do honor the people who sow into us every month.
Absolutely.
I do honor that with my whole life. So I'm not going to go extravagant. I'm not going to get 5 pairs of boots for my wife. I'm not going to drive brand new cars.
I'm talking about one. I just need one pair.
Okay, all right. I'm going to get you one pair. And so, I think that is a really important thing. Now, I don't agree with the Ramsey thing. I think that is impoverished. I actually don't like it at all.
It's real high control.
And it's very controlling and weird, but you do need to find that. As a couple, you need to find somebody that's gone before you, somebody that's done it well, and you do have to have a budget. And you do have to follow that budget.
Yeah.
And do that with life. Don't make it a right and wrong thing. Make it a life or death thing.
Absolutely.
Right? And how much are we sowing into good soil this month?
Yeah.
Where's our tithe going?
Widows and orphans.
Our tithe goes to the widow and orphan to protect our money. We sow into rich soil. We want a good marriage. We're going to sow into Gary and Lisa Black every month because that's going to extremely grow our marriage the way that their marriage is, right? You find people who are doing it really well. That's where you sow.
There you go.
Right? And then you always tithe to the local church or to somebody who's feeding you around widows and orphans, making sure that they're being taken care of. And so for me, that's a healthy way of balancing, but you do go find a program or somebody that's done it. I know you didn't like the Chris Valentin.
No, we liked it. We got kicked out of Spain and we never got to finish it.
Okay. The Chris Valentin does a good one.
He's a good, solid man. Like he's not flippant, and he is educated, and he reads, and he came
from poverty.
Yeah,
and now he does very well.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
So another place of intimacy is spiritual intimacy.
Okay, ooh, that's good.
I know.
So praying together.
Shut up. Okay. Yeah.
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 I think it really is a very important thing in marriage.
I think it really is.
I think we've made it too important. Okay. So Lisa and I have her relationship with the Father is very intimate and very personal, and she's had a hard time praying with me through the years on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Because why?
Well, because my first marriage, we prayed together all the time about everything, and there was still a lot of lies happening there. And then there was just one gentleman that I dated, and we prayed together all the time because he was very drawn to my spirituality. And it made me closer to him than I should have been. I cared more about him. It was a place of intimacy. We were not sleeping together. We were not, but it was a place of intimacy, and I just got burned.
Yeah.
And I think when I met you, I was 29, and I'd been on my own for 5 years, and I was just kind of like, I'm going to give this guy my body and my heart, but I'm probably not going to give him all of me.
Thank you for giving me your body and your heart.
You're welcome.
And thank you, though, through the years. Now, obviously, when some big thing happens or we were really needing a breakthrough, or there was 7 years that we could not make any money, and it was God.
Everything we touched died.
Everything we touched
Yeah.
was completely dead, including our son in the midst of that season. And so we started 3 businesses. All 3 went bankrupt from crazy stuff. I mean, it's just wild what was happening. We came together in that season in prayer.
Yes.
Right? So there are those times, but does it need to be consistent in your mind in a marriage to consistently pray with one another?
I think praying together is a great opportunity to speak life to your spouse. Because I'm not going to ever hold your hand and sit in our front room with the sun coming, the Rocky Mountain sun coming and kissing our skin and say,
the writer.
And God, would you just make my husband not such an ass? And I think there's always that manipulation.
Yes.
Whenever you and I are in that situation, I was like, oh God, I just thank you that this man is the father of my children.
Yeah.
And he's the grandfather of my grandchildren. And I just thank you for his, and I that's a time to exalt you while you're exalting the Father.
That's good.
And reminding each other, like, this is what I see about you. We may be living in the same house and doing all these things and working together, but we aren't always like super intentional to look in each other's eyes and say, I just want to tell you, I really appreciate the man that you are. When you're praying, that's a great time to do that. And also it's a place to say, we need help. Like, we have a grandchild that's suffering,
right?
And we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But in that, we will pray for our grandchild's parents.
Yes.
We're gonna keep unity in the family in our prayers through sharing our life spiritually.
Yeah, and then if there's a big decision you have to make, like we're going to buy this house. Well, let's both go to the Lord separately and just see what He's saying to us. Let's get a rhema word from God. A yes or something in our hearts. Let's come back together and pray on that, and then let's have Him show us to us in Scripture. So then we get into Scripture, and He proves it. He always proves it through His Word. But as you do that as a couple and you learn to pray together and trust what you're hearing in your own heart individually, coming together and hearing that together and then letting Him show you that in the Word, that's how you should make any big decision in your life.
Absolutely.
Every single time.
I think also for your children to see that spiritual connection, and the way that you and I think, connect the most spiritually is we send each other podcasts, we send each other quotes, and we send each other blogs or things like something you love from Richard Rohr.
Fun reels.
Or fun reels. That's the best part of the day when I get all this from you.
Yeah.
It's usually big trucks. But that is a way, I think a tool that you can use in that is to actually have an agreement. Now, don't overdo it, maybe one a week or whatever, but whatever I send you, or like, there was a couple books that you were loving, and by the time I got to chapter 13, I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I can't. I cannot. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
I'm getting depressed.
Yeah.
I
understand. Return of the Gods.
Yeah, I understand the point. I got it. I'm going to get the Cliff Notes. I agree with it, but I am like, it's bogging me down.
Yeah.
But generally what we do is if you're excited about something you're learning, you want to share that with your spouse.
Yes.
And now we can do that manipulatively. Like, I have people that send me stuff all the time. Like, I know you're trying to fix me. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Good 53, kind of like who I am. Keep trying, though.
Your Southern Baptist podcast is not going to help.
So cute that you're trying to fix me. So it's not a place of fixing. It's a place of, I'm learning this and I want to share this with you, and I want to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, that's really good.
Okay.
And we do that well together.
Yeah.
Okay. What's another intimacy?
Emotional.
Okay. Emotional intimacy. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
I don't know. You're a boy, so you probably don't know.
That's probably true. In fact, I'm getting a little nervous, starting to sweat.
No, you shouldn't. I like to ask, I feel like the key to life is asking people questions about themselves, listening to the answers. And then actually being able to like reiterate something they said a month ago, because you're showing them I value. So I met this woman, I had a conversation with her, and we had lunch, and she told me about this grandchild. I'm going to remember the grandchild's name
you do
and
that
the situation because that's important to that person.
Yeah.
So that is the key to relationship.
Yes.
Now, you can't do that with everybody because
right.
you're not being intimate with everybody. But in a marriage, I love to ask you questions about, like, sometimes it's whimsical, like, tell me about the first time you went out on the football field. Like, did you feel like you were going to suffocate in that helmet? Because I just feel like that would be, and then I'll like kind of bring you into that. Like, what did the grass smell like? And, were you sneezing and were you scared? Did you have butterflies in your stomach? Did you want to hit somebody? Like,
right.
And I'll get you to tell the stories of your life and ask you questions. Now, if I'm doing that, I'm creating intimacy. If I use those things against you, I'm destroying the intimacy.
Wow, that's so good. That's really right. And
so if those stories go into like, I was under the bleachers and I was making out with Kathy and I was like, was Kathy hot? And what we've come to is that you are attracted.
Shout out to my high school girlfriend.
You are attracted to women with dark hair and flat chests. You married a buxom blonde. So something wrong.
Wow.
But if I use that against you, like, so was Kathy, or because I'm an insecure woman, or I'm a child, or I'm a little girl, I've crushed that intimacy. You're not going to open up to me again.
Right.
You open up to me. I can ask you any question.
Oh, I tell you anything.
You tell me anything, because I'm like, that is really interesting. It's disturbing, but it's very interesting. And now I know more about you than I knew before.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say that to you men. I mean, I've come to a space emotionally in my marriage where I'm not afraid. I have nothing to hide. Like Lisa she has all my passcodes. She can have my phone whenever she wants. Like we
use each other's computers.
Yeah,
we don't even think about it. There's no hesitation though, because I think even if you were like, yeah, you can use my phone, because we share glasses. We share, like, we're ridiculous. Our kids are like, oh my God, you guys are so old. But I think if there was a hesitation, like the other night I was wanting to Google something, I couldn't find my phone. Like if you'd stop for a second and be like, oh crap. There's something
there's some things
you
just make me Google in my phone because you don't want it in your phone. But I think you're right. If there's a hesitation, there's something off.
Yeah, something wrong.
100%. Yeah. So that to me is a huge one, emotional, because again, and we've talked about this on the last few podcasts, is it Galatians 5:22 emotions, or is it you not harnessing or ruling your emotions, right? If it's Galatians 5, I become those things. I become love, joy, peace, patience, right? If it's my emotions, I'm reacting and I'm upset and I want to prove that you're wrong and I'm right, and all that gets in the way, and I'm not harnessing or ruling anything because I'm just reacting and I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next instead of listening to what you're actually saying.
Exactly.
Which that's where you lose emotional intimacy every time.
Yeah. So a good tool of that is just ask your spouse questions and listen to their answers.
Yes.
Because how do you feel when you're in that situation with someone? You feel seen. You feel heard. You feel like they're interested in you. You might have even had some memories you hadn't thought about in years, good memories, whatever. But I mean, when you get off a call, sometimes like, how did it make you feel? Are you angry? Are you sad?
Yeah.
Was he an ass?
Yeah.
I don't like him anyways, just so you know. Or we're like, hey, actually, he's really a great guy. He's just having a hard time. Or, I'm curious about the way you see the world, because I love you and I respect you and I want to understand how you see things.
That's good. That's really good. And I just want to add that if your spouse isn't living up to that emotionally, like I'm dealing with some guys I'm coaching right now whose their wives just aren't in that space. There's been trauma. There's been things that have happened. There's been things the men have done, whatever. And they're just trying to win the heart back of their wives. If she's not capable yet of ruling her emotions in that,
he can't win.
Well, you got to stay in anyway.
Yeah.
As a man, you have to look past that emotion.
Yeah.
And you have to actually deal with the spirit behind. Like we used an example on the last podcast. Some guy I'm coaching right now, his wife deals with a spirit of abandonment.
Yeah.
And if she feels abandoned in any way, she just loses it, right? I told him, serve her in that. Pray against that spirit of abandonment.
Right.
Love her in her abandonment, right? Anyway, don't listen to her words. Don't listen to her anger, her frustrations, her screaming, whatever she's doing. Listen to her heart. And you've got to train yourself how to do that as a man, especially with an emotional woman, which, let's be honest, women are emotional.
I don't feel like I'm that emotional.
Not as much as you used to be. No, you're very good at it now. So I think that's
I am
important.
just as emotional as I've probably ever been. I rule them.
Yes.
I make them my slave.
Rule and reign.
They do not make me their slave. And I refuse to react and not respond, because I am a woman.
Yes.
I am not a little girl.
Shako.
And it is incredibly popular to focus on how you feel and expect everyone in your sphere of influence to bow to how you feel.
Right.
That is not
That's
the Christian
children.
way. That is a 2-year-old throwing a
Yeah.
fit and ruling a room.
It's true.
You don't respect the 2-year-old, and you're not going to follow him into battle.
Right.
That's all I have to say. Do you want to be the kind of person that people are like, I can go arm in arm with this woman in battle because she's got my front, she's got my back, she's got my side? Or is she going to crumble into the masses because somebody hurt her feelings?
Right. Or his feelings.
That's a child.
There's a lot of feminine men out there right now that cannot handle their emotions, and they crush under any kind of pressure.
I know.
So it goes both ways.
I was listening to that yesterday. Just the what we've basically said to men is, don't be a man. Be a little boy or be a girl, but don't be a man.
Yeah.
And then we're mad at them for not being men.
Yeah, I watched the great reel on that. Little boy comes to his dad and says, "Dad, can I have some of your wine?" He's like 8. He's like, "No, you have to be 21 to have some of my wine." He's like, "Well, then can I take the car?" And he has his keys. He's like, "No, you have to be 16 to take the car." He goes, "Oh, well, then can I become a girl?" And Dad goes, "Oh, yeah, we could do that one.
And
right
we're
now."
going to have a party.
Yeah.
We're going to celebrate.
Okay,
you.
what's the last one?
The last one is obviously sexual intimacy.
Okay, good transition.
Yeah, but people have a really hard time with this one because I think women, especially, because again, we go back to the compartmentalizing. A man, I love coaching young mothers. It's one of my favorite things to do because we will laugh so hard. And this one girl I was coaching, and they're like temporarily living in a hotel while they're remodeling a house. And they have 2 little ones. And she's like, he wants to have sex. And the kids are in the room. I was like, honey, they can have sex in front of children, their mothers, dogs. They don't care. It's like they're like looking straight ahead. And I was like, I'm feeling for you, girl, because nothing will shut down a woman's like sex drive, like the cry of a child. Or, it's like we cannot compartmentalize that I am just your wife. I'm not somebody's mother. Like sometimes women have a hard time, like these boobs just fed them and now they're feeding them. Like, I don't know what to think. Women do have to learn how to compartmentalize a little bit. And I do think men need to understand that we are created very different than you.
Yeah, and not take it personal.
It's not personal.
Right.
It's primal.
Right.
That's what I used to make my class always say. It's not personal. It's primal. I know when we're at a restaurant and a beautiful woman walks by, you're going to look. And I'm like, it's primal. I look.
Right.
But if you're going to like ignore me and look at her the whole time, that's taking it to
that's what I taught the boys. You look once,
you look once,
you, Jesus,
you thank God for the beauty, and then you move on.
Yeah.
No, you're great at that. You lead that really well. But I think that women do need to learn how to compartmentalize in order to build intimacy with their spouse. And that's why I'm trying to tell everyone, like, there's a reason hotel sex is so great. Because you got the air conditioning on, you got big blankets, you don't have to clean up, you don't care if there's anything on the toilet, your kids are somewhere else. Like, I think what we all want to do is recreate hotel sex in our regular life. And when your kids leave home, that's a whole new level.
We have hotel sex all the time.
We have hotel sex all the time. So we went to a hotel for our anniversary and we were like,
we
could just go home. It's the same thing because we're finally at that place. But when you are it's all connected for you as a woman. That's why, and so many people say this to me. I know you guys say don't have your kids in your bed. Listen, they're your kids. You raise them any way you want. I just don't know how people keep getting pregnant when they have 4 kids in their bed, but apparently they're very creative. But I just think the best thing for your kids, the reason we say that is to never have a break from them is telling them that they're gods, basically. Like the way I felt raising our kids was, I have given you people everything I have all day long. I've given you my soul. You've had my body. You've had my attention. You've had patience that don't exist in me. And then when you came home, I wanted to shift that to, okay, now I'm his wife. And to me, that was a beautiful shift because I felt like I got to be like a woman, not like a milking machine or,
I'm singing like Shania Twain in my brain right now.
I feel like a woman. But that is such a different compartment for women to think about is, okay, I've done this all day, or I've worked here, and now I'm shifting over to be this man's wife and be fully present in that.
Yeah.
That's where great sex comes from. But we often don't know how to do that. And my only argument has been, if there's 3 toddlers in your bed, how are you going
you
to
can't.
shift over your mind into just being sexually intimate?
You're not. Let's stay on that. Let's not cave on that one. Keep your kids out of your damn room. There's got to be something sacred in your life, and your room is sacred. I don't even think I walked my parents' room. I would die before I'd walk in there.
Do you remember this time Michael brought the entire Pine Creek football team into our bedroom to say goodnight to me, and I had this little white nightie on, and I'm trying to like cover myself. Like, who raised you, Michael? Oh, the guy just wanted to say goodnight, Mom. You know, like we were raised that our parents' bedroom was this sacred,
it is
holy place,
is.
and I think we do need to go back to that.
Now your kid's upset, has a nightmare, whatever. They can come in the bed. You let them stay for a bit, and then you take them back. You train them that they're okay.
Well, you're
and they can be in their own
also
space
to regulate their own emotions,
right?
Instead of them
giving
always
into
having
the
to
full,
be dependent
100%.
on you. When is that break going to happen?
Right.
I mean, are you going to wait till your son is walking down the aisle to marry a young woman before you're like, oh, she's yours now, honey?
Yeah.
Like at some point you have to start pulling away from them in order for them to establish their independence and regulate themselves.
Right.
And I think that might be why we have so many emotionally unregulated humans walking around the earth is someone's been telling them like, however you feel is all that matters.
Well, yeah.
And whatever you need is all that matters.
And most of those are Christian podcasts, and they're just not real. Okay, well, I'll end with this quick story. You know, I'm coaching a guy the other day, and his wife is going through all this training, and that one of their kids is freaking out and being just completely unruly as a teenager. And I'm like, sometimes you just need to tell her she doesn't get to do that or she's going to get spanked. Now, I know we don't believe in spanking. I know that's horrible, but they want to give into her feelings. It's okay to feel this way. You can keep feeling this way as she's screaming and tearing the house apart. It's just not acceptable.
Absolutely
and
not.
A line has to be drawn, and you have to be the parent. You don't need to be their friend.
Well, children feel out of control. They need someone that's in control.
Jesus help us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They need someone in control, not controlling to manipulate, controlling to show that you can rule your emotions and you can overcome your emotions.
Yes.
And guess what? You have to, because this is our home and this is what we do. I think that's a good message.
Okay.
Are we good?
We're good.
All right. We're emotionally intimate. We're financially intimate. We fixed our marriage, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. If you want to join us on a podcast and be on it, make sure you hit us up, please. Watch our videos. Join our Patreon, $1 a month. Jointhejourneyman.com. You can watch everything there first. If you want to sow into a really good marriage, I'd encourage you to sow into us. Amen.
I don't talk about money. So
I know you don't. All right, guys. Love you. Thanks again.